Well, here we are at the CHEK Blog once again, and I'm thrilled as always to have Warren Williams today as my guest. He's got a very, maybe a heady topic today, but I know that Warren always makes it sort of digestible and practical, so I'm looking
Mm,
forward to it. We're going to talk about meditation, prayer, and belief.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought those are quite apt because they're all on the same sort of line because
Mm.
they all relate to this kind of spiritualism, this spirituality. Like if someone says, "Are you a believer?" you
Mm.
know, "Are you a believer? Do you believe? Do you have the faith?"
Yeah.
Um, or do you pray?
Mm.
Or what's in nowadays? Yeah, I'm into meditation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All kind of fads or quirks or names or they name drop. Yeah, I'm a meditator. Or
Yeah.
thought because the world is shifting into this awareness stage now. Obviously, from as we call the age of Aquarius, or some people call it the age of Phoenix.
Mm.
Uh, or age of ether, as some people call it, this conscious rising that we're at now, where we spoke about on the last talk about, Ken Wilber talking about the global consciousness of the
Right.
planet rising. Um, the world is rising, and there are certain words that people latch onto, but sometimes they are interchangeable and they think they're all the same.
Mm.
And there's misunderstanding of what meditation really is,
Mm.
and the difference between meditation and praying,
Mm.
and even prayer and belief. Sometimes those are very interchangeable, and people
Mm.
think if you're a believer, you're obviously someone that prays,
Mm.
and the definitions and the differences between them. So I'm going to start off with belief. So I had to go online and actually look up what their definition of belief is, because I have a different association with it. But
Mm.
it's the acceptance that something is true, especially without proof.
Mm.
The acceptance that something is true, especially without proof. I mean,
Mm.
especially without proof.
Mm.
So I remember one of my spiritual masters was talking about years ago about belief, and there's positives and negatives to everything. So I'm just going to talk about a negative, and then I'll talk about a positive example of belief. But a negative of belief, I remember one of my spiritual masters, he said, if you only have belief in something and you can't prove it, are you willing to die for it? A lot of
Mm.
people are, such as religious people. And then he said, okay, so if someone came to your house and said, right, you owe £10,000, would you just take it on belief or faith that they
Mm.
do, or want proof? You'd obviously want proof. So you said, okay, so you want proof, you need proof for this £10,000 debt that you owe, but you don't need proof for the afterlife.
Mm. Mm.
And this is where this statement of belief can be a bit doubtful for a lot of people, because a lot of people fear death, and a
Mm.
lot of people fear death because they don't believe,
Yeah.
and even if they do believe, they don't really know for sure. And I remember, when we look at people like the Pope, the
Mm.
Pope talking about, don't fear death, love God, you're gonna go to heaven. What, everyone?
Yeah.
Everyone's in.
Yeah.
Just have to have faith.
Mm-hmm.
So he says it's okay. Don't fear death. You just got to have faith. Why is he driving around in a bulletproof car?
Mm.
He should be like, kill me. I'm good. I'm right there. I'm
Mm.
next in line.
Mm.
But he's shielded. In a bulletproof car. That means he must fear death.
Mm.
It's like we have this concept that belief is the way forward. But yet, when we look at the word belief, is it apt for everything? It's not apt for everything if you have a mortgage advisor saying, yeah, just trust me.
Mm.
Just, yeah, I'll do right by you. No, you want contracts. And a lot of times people do have trust and belief in something, and it doesn't pan out. So then people start to doubt this belief in some practice, like, just the belief or the faith that we have in the medical system.
Mm.
There's a lot of people don't have the same faith or belief in the medical system because there's a lot of research showing that it's not working as effectively as people once believed.
Yeah.
And so we know that belief isn't always permanent, because something can always supersede belief, just like the belief that we had that the planet was flat,
Mm.
and it's been proven that it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So in order for you to have belief, you have to have belief in something that can't be proven. But most of the time when you believe something without proof, oftentimes that belief has been shown to expire by science.
Ah.
So science is showing belief to be false, in that things like religious people believe that the planet is only 6,000 years old because in their text in the Old Testament, they had this equation that the planet has only been here 6,000 years. That's a belief system. But all you have to do is go and get a crystal, gold. And crystal and gold have been carbon dated to be shown to be up to 1 million years old. And to even form gold or diamonds in the planet, it takes pressure. It takes hundreds of thousands of years of pressure to create diamonds and gold. So that one thing in itself, forget arguments. Your religion is proven wrong by their equation that the planet's only been here 6,000 years. But in order for somebody to maintain their religion, knowing that fact, they have serious belief. And now the word belief is a negative now, because belief, when you look at it logically, is denial. Because in order for you to continue your belief, you have to deny that fact. And that's statement, acceptance that something is true, especially without belief, or sorry, without proof. The proof is there. The dinosaurs, I remember one time years ago, someone was talking to me about the dinosaurs, and I was like saying, okay, well, if the planet's been here 6,000 years, can you tell me where the dinosaurs fit in? When did they come about? You know, and the Cretaceous period and all these periods are millions of years ago. But in order to still be a religious person today, you have to have such belief that you doubt the proof that is out there by science. So these are like negatives of what, you know, belief is. And like I said, that terminology for belief is interchangeable with denial, because you have such strong faith and belief in something, even though you've been shown it's incorrect by science and fact. Meteors, you know, they've carbon dated meteors to be 4 billion years old. But people think the universe was created 6,000 years ago. That's a belief system that is outdated by proof. So again, these are just negative examples of belief. Another belief, this can be positive or negative. Another belief is the self-image that you have, the self-illusion or the self-awareness that you have can be based on belief. The belief that you are strong, the belief that you are fit, the belief that you are attractive, that you are intelligent. You know, sometimes it's correct and sometimes it's not, but you hold it as a belief. It's a definition that you believe in your mind's a perception, in a sense. It's interchangeable now, perception. So, you know, oftentimes I see, and this is the sad thing, and I'll shift to a positive in a moment. This is the sad thing about belief. You have religious people, and this is sad for me. You have a lot of religious people that they are religious. They are, let's say Christians for a moment. Most of the time, you find that a Christian is only a Christian because their parents before them were Christian. Their parents before them were Christian. They never challenged the faith or prove it correct, prove it factual. They are only Christian because their parents were. So that's a belief perpetuated by parental programming. And it precipitates because when they have a child, their child's going to be a Christian. And they base their whole life until they die on this belief without ever challenging the faith. And again, because they fear whether or not their belief will hold up to scrutiny. I remember another spiritual person, one of my mentors said years ago, you know, you can't defend religious books because they can't defend themselves, and they should be able to. Be able to open a religious book and it should be able to defend itself to today's science. Are you telling me God didn't know that we developed this level of technology that the religious books couldn't stand up to that level of scrutiny? There's been put things in there to warrant today's technology and today's information, but it hasn't. You know, like I said, religion is being proved as false based on science today. So, you know, the sad thing is that, you know, if you're going to be religious and you're going to base your whole life until you die on a religion, at least challenge the religion. But you don't. Your parents are religious, so you become religious, and you've chosen the same religion. Sad. Because you make your choices based on a belief system that you've never proven to be right or wrong. So let's say you go through your whole life, and let's say your friends eat pork, and you want, but you're a certain type of Christian that practices quite a strict religion where you're not allowed to have pork.
Mm.
The whole life you go through this and you die like, I never tasted pork because, my religion said I couldn't have it.
Mm.
That's a belief system you've never challenged. Maybe one day someone proves something to you and you're on your deathbed and they say, you know what, all that stuff was crap. What? Give me some chicken before I die. I'm kind of joking there, but there's so many things that, like religious people, like Muslims.
Mm.
We look at, and I don't want to use just attack religion. I'm just, the belief, the whole thing about belief in this context is based on religion. I remember Paul was talking about some woman who had seen Susie Neville, who's a brilliant practitioner, and she couldn't get her out of a certain level of back pain, so she referred her to Paul, and then Paul was talking about how when he spoke to this lady, a lot of her pain was emotional because she didn't actually want to be Muslim anymore. Because certain sects of Islam are more rigid on women than others. And, a lot of her back pain was resentment for depression that she felt. Again, I'm not saying this is right or wrong, just her belief system, her perception. And once she kind of had spoken to Paul and had this self-realization, her back pain went because of this pain of suppression that she felt she was in because of a belief system she was born into.
Yeah.
And felt that she couldn't come out of because her parents were, and they would look down on her. They didn't even look at the religious context of people that want to be gay. And the belief system goes against their natural inclination to love the same sex. And they have to lie to themselves because of a belief system. But they say, but how can this be wrong when I feel the way I feel? And they always have a statement. And, love, can you prove love? No, you can only feel it. That's real. Yeah. But these people feel this, but because of belief, they can't explore it. That's trauma. That's traumatized. And so, these are some of the negatives of belief. And I remember Paul was quoting, no man can understand scripture until he's enlightened. But when he's enlightened, he realizes he doesn't need scripture. And you go beyond the pages and you focus on your own experiences. And spirituality, religion is a belief in somebody else's experience based on stories. But spirituality is having your own experience based on events.
Right.
So these are some of the negatives of belief. Now, a positive of belief, I'm going to tell you a story that I'd seen on a documentary some years ago. This is a positive now. There was a child who had brain cancer. He was 8 years old. And the doctor said, as always, the diagnosis is always death. There's no positives there. They never say, you just focus your mind, you'll be fine. It's always not, you die. So anyway, the child was given 6 months to live. Every night, this is about 15, 20 years ago, every night the child would envisage in their mind that the cancerous tumors in their brain, and they would see it like Space Invaders. Do you remember the game Space Invaders? Yes. That he had the little ship going from side to side shooting cancer cells in his brain. He did that every night for about 6 months. And then when they scanned his brain, he had no cancer. Wow. That's the belief in the positive sense. He believed it so much. There was no doubt in his mind that he convinced his body. Like, when Deepak Chopra was talking, and he says that if the whole body completely changes in 12 months, a year, you go brain, in the skeleton, organs recycle. So basically in a 12-month period, you grow a whole new body. And he was asked, well, if that's the case, then what happens with people that have cancer? Why is it they don't get rid of cancer if they've grown a whole new body in 12 months? He says, because the program is the same. Program is belief. Yeah. And, I remember I was watching the trailer for something that Paul CHEK had just sent to us. I think he sent it to you as well. He sent it to you and then forwarded it to us. This new thing called Heal. The deep Heal. So I watched the trailer the other day, and there was a woman sat down, and some healer was working on her, and she said, "I don't know who I am without my pain." Yeah. That was powerful for me, because it's so many people identify themselves with their pain, that their mind creates the reality that their brain accepts. Yeah. That's belief. Yeah. powerful belief system. So, you know, that's a powerful belief in a negative that holds you back, but you can shift it to a positive, and it heals you like that child did.
Yeah.
And another example of the power of belief in a positive sense. To Tony Robbins was talking about some child who he had come to him from Make-A-Wish Foundation, and he was about to die, and his goal was to see Tony before he passed. And they said, yeah, if he coughed, he had some rare disease that if he coughed, he'd break a bone.
Mm.
And they basically said, look, you're going to be dead in 3 or 4 months, because if you even cough, you break a bone. All of his bones were just like, very, very soft.
Mm.
And so anyway, he did some visualization stuff, and within 2 months, he was focusing all the time, and he just willed his bones to be strong.
Mm.
And story short, within 6 months, he was able to do push-ups and stuff like that through the power of belief.
Wow.
So there's a definite power to our mind, like Paul Chek says. Nothing heals faster than intention.
Mm.
And he says no therapist will get rid of pain faster than you can create it in your mind.
Mm.
If you believe what's happening to you in a positive sense, if you believe it's going to help you, it will help you. Intention is so powerful, and intention is based on belief.
Mm.
So, when religion tries to create this belief system, that's, there is positives to it, because you have a belief in a higher power. That's a positive. Like I said, the negative we've already discussed, in that it can hold people back from making correct choices based on a program given to them by their parents that never tested or challenged the program. Mm-hmm. So, that's, the summary of, belief. And, religion is quite yang, trying to explain yin, because yang is active and yin is stillness. And, a lot of belief things are externalized, whereas, true connection is internalized. And that's the difference what we'll get to in a little bit with, meditation and stuff. So that's kind of like a summary of, belief. I don't know if you have any questions on that before we move on.
No, I think I understand it. The thing that I was thinking about a lot of times is we're talking about, these conflicts of fact, right? Whether it's with religion or, especially in those cases. And you can find all these other examples, right? You don't have to look to religion, right? Global warming is another one of these cases where you've got 97% of the scientific community saying this is what's happening, right? Mm-hmm. And yet this very large and vocal population saying, humans can't affect our environment like that. It's this belief to the contrary in the face of all this mountain of evidence. Mm-hmm. And so, I think in religion, it always comes back to me that oftentimes what religion tries to do in a way is offer you a guide to how to behave. And if that's the case, then why do I need to really believe that God created the planet in 7 days, 6,000 years ago, in order to take to heart this idea that, you shouldn't hurt other people, but the distinction makes a lot of sense to me. So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, just like you said on that, we're not saying people shouldn't accept that there's a higher power. What we're talking about is the religious dogma that goes with it.
That's right.
That's the part that's holding us back, the religious dogma that goes with it. So belief is a good thing, as we've just shown, and a bad thing, as we've just shown. So prayer. So the definition of prayer: an act that seeks to activate a rapport with an object of worship through deliberate communication. So an act that seeks to activate a rapport with an object of worship through deliberate communication. I thought it was interesting that it said an object of worship. Car. It's because you see that a lot with guys where they find their self-worth based on material things. When you see a guy outside washing his car, I'm like, the car's clean. What are you washing it for? It can't get any cleaner than that. And self-worth and how they judge themselves is the gold that they have around their neck, the muscles that they have, and these objects of desire, as they say. So when we talk about prayer, people automatically think religious or some form of spiritual, but it's not just that. People can, they can have this massive worship of objects, and you see that all the time. So it doesn't have to just be a religious thing. But what we're talking about with regards to prayer is what most people assume, which is the religious connotation to prayer. But again, we're tying it back into the spiritual side of things. And I always, have been taught by spiritual masters that prayer is the art of talking.
Mm.
It's just the art of talking. So you see people sat there and they're having a conversation, but they say if you're talking, when is the point where you're listening?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And people most of the time, people that aren't religious pray is when they need something.
Yeah.
God, if get me out of this difficult situation. There's a lion coming on me right now. My car won't start. God, just get me out of this situation. I promise I'll go to church next week. And then if they get out of the situation, they don't go to church next week. People are just talking for something that they want.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, that's the case when people are praying. A lot of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time, people are praying for what they want. They are asking for something out of a desire, a desire for something that they lack, they want. But again, based on an need, so they need to acquire something. So they're praying, they're asking for that thing. So it's always for something external. So again, that's another yang, because it's an action, it's taking, it's wanting. It's not a yin. It's not receiving and fulfilling and satisfying and sustaining and listening. In meditation, you're actually in a state of inquisition and a state of internal reflection and a state of awakening. But prayer, a lot of the time, it's just talking. It's just an act. And there's a lot of people that, going back to the religious side of things, that they've been programmed and told that they have to pray. But I always say, does God need your prayer? And God doesn't, because basically, especially how they define God, God doesn't need anything. If God needed something, God would no longer be omniscient, omnipresent. He wouldn't be omnipotent. He wouldn't have a need. So if God has a need, then God is no longer God. God is no longer limitless in that. So God doesn't need you to pray. If everyone on the planet stopped praying, would God still exist? That's the question. And if God would still exist, then why do you need to pray? You don't need to pray. You choose to pray. So what I'm really saying here is, if you're going to pray because you want to create a connection, and a lot of our ancient ancestors, the Native Americans and the Mayans and the ancient Egyptians and all these other tribes, and they have invocation, they have prayer, but they're out of love and reverence and connection. They're not doing it. They've been told, if you don't pray, you're going to hell, and that's what it's a lot of these books. You best pray or you're going to hell. In Islam, you have to pray 5 times a day. And what happens if you don't? They say if you don't pray, that's one of the the 5 mantras that they have to have. If you don't pray, you're going to go to hell. So a lot of the time when people are praying, they're doing it for the wrong reason. They're doing it for fear. They're only to avoid termination or Jahannam, as they say in Islam, or hellfire or hell. So a lot of times people are praying for the wrong reason. They're praying for avoidance of pain, or they're praying to acquire something. So there isn't that much positive on that sense, but there is the form of prayer in invocation where someone, like, I remember there's a very famous pole vaulter, Elena Simbayeva, Russian, and she'd broken world record like 15 times in pole vaulting, and she had a prayer that say she'd have a pole and she would, and then she'd do great things, and people always ask her, what's this prayer that you're saying? She goes, I'll tell you when I retire. She don't know, I haven't looked into it, but that's kind of like a prayer. It's like a mantra, like an affirmation. So those are kind of interchangeable. You have an affirmation, you have a mantra, you can have a prayer, something, an invocation that you create that empowers you. You create your own personalized prayer that can empower you. So that's a positive as well, but again, it's words. The attention and connection to those words empowers a result in your mind, so it can create a shift in your mind. Some people that heal, the power, they talk about the power of prayer. So again, another positive. There are some people that have healed from cancers and healed from traumatic issues because of prayer. Prayer groups come together. They've tested stuff like this in science and labs, where the power of prayer, and the prayer part of it is intention Because as intention, there's a book called The Intention Experiment, where they talk about the power of prayer, but it's not necessarily words. It's not like the Lord's Prayer did the work. It's not that. It's the intention behind the word. So you could have in Swahili, in Arabic, in English, German, doesn't matter. It's the intention behind the words. It could have been the first, the First Testament. Could have been the Last Testament. It could have been the Quran. It could have been the Bhagavad Gita. Of those, it was the intention behind the words. So the powerful thing about the power of prayer is the intention and the conscious connection to the idea that creates the result in the first place. So that's kind of like the summary on prayer. It has positives and negatives. A lot of it is religious and dogmatic programming, and some of it is faith, and some of it is intention. But all of those are up here. They're all perceptions in our minds.
And so it's a matter really of, as you said, sort of connecting with something meaningful, whether that's God or Allah or
Krishna or
Zeus
Shiva.
or whatever, right? Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
So it's about connection.
Yeah, it allows them to connect to a higher power, which is great because if they connect to a higher power, then it helps them to associate themselves with something more. And sometimes when you can associate yourself with something more, it allows you to see the world and the possibilities rather than what's just surrounding you. So that's a great thing about it. What we said, like we said, negative could be the dogma associated with the need to pray because God's going to punish you. That's where the negative part comes in, and that's what we have to kind of get away from. Pray because you want to. Pray because it elevates you and it helps you to focus on the spiritual component of you. Don't because you fear you're going to hell, is basically what we're saying.
So this is going to be interesting because it sounds like prayer is very similar to meditation in a way. So how those become different practices will be interesting to me.
Yeah. So let's move on to meditation.
Yeah, that's why I said I brought it up. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember when I was talking to Paul about this, and he said, one of the statements for meditation is detached witnessing. And I love that. That's a good point, detached witnessing. And I remember one of my spiritual masters said years ago that, and this is slightly different, but I like the take on this, when he said, meditation is like the sister to death. Because when someone dies, their body is still, but their soul is traveling. When someone meditates, they're not moving around; they're still, but their soul is traveling. So meditation is like the sister to death, because it's one step away. Because when someone passes on, their physical body is dormant and their spiritual body separates and goes somewhere else. In meditation, you can do that consciously. You can your body still and separate, like people that have had astral projections and left their bodies. And they've been able to see themselves on the operating table. At that moment, it's similar to death in that sense. So, so I like Paul's take on it, this detached witnessing, because you're detached in that you just let go. And then you observe, you become the observer to the event. Now, meditation is stillness, or it's centering. The difference with meditation versus prayer and belief is meditation is purely yin. It's about let it go, whereas the others are more focused outward external projections. You have to create the event. In order for you to believe, you have to create the event in your mind. To pray, you have to be physically active, put your hands together, find an altar. So it's an external event. It's something you have to actively go and do. So it's more yang. Meditation is just let go. You just let go and allow yourself to receive. That's the difference. So it's purely yin. So as the saying goes, if you don't go within, you go without. So meditation, like Paul says, the more you meditate, the less you perceive yourself as a body. And you start to see yourself as everything, consciousness. You connect to everything, and you no longer, when you get to a certain level, fear death. Because you've been to the other side so many times, because you've actually connected. Now, a lot of times when people meditate, they're doing specific tasks. Even though I say they let go, I'm talking about the people that do it wrong. They get taught these specific things, and they sit there and say, right, I'm going to close my eyes for 20 minutes, and I'm going to breathe. And they think that's meditation. That's not meditation. Meditation is get into a certain state where you get let go enough, and you detach enough, you dissolve the ego enough, where you just connect to the other side without any bias. Such, if you're religious, when you close your eyes, I'm going to see Jesus right now. You've created this bias in your mind,
Mm.
or another person, when I close my eyes, I'm going to see Buddha.
Mm.
You're getting in the way. Meditation isn't about that. Meditation is about letting go and letting whatever comes to you be what happens. So, meditation is about being, being in the moment, being still, and just letting go of your ego, dissolving the ego, and allowing the truth to come to you, whether it's bitter to take or accept. It's the truth, and there is no there's no bias to the truth in that sense. So, the more you meditate, the less you perceive your body. If that's the case, then when you come back to the physical body, you no longer fear death, and you see the change in your relationship to the world, because you don't see yourself as a physical being having having a spiritual experience, which is what a lot of people that are religious do. They see themselves as physical beings having a spiritual experience. When you master or get deeper into a state of meditation, you see yourself as a spiritual being having a physical experience. Such as, going back to Avatar, when Jake Sully, the more he was the Avatar, he found it hard. He said he saw it the other way around, that he was the Avatar coming back to the physical guy, because there for so long he was getting confused as to which one was the real him. When you do that state of meditation, you start to see the truth that the world here is just the illusion. This world is the illusion, and you see the real connection. You see everyone is connected. There's no racism, there's no hate, there's no prejudice, because you just see everyone as equal to everyone else, because we're all sharing the same experience. We're all sharing the same energy. When I inhale, I'm inhaling from the same air that you're inhaling. When I exhale, I'm exhaling the same air that you're exhaling. You learn to slow down, and you start to acknowledge the greatness within you, because you feel it and you experience it, and you only feel it. And when you get to the stage where you only feel love, there's no room for hate, because you can't have love and hate at the same time. You have to either be in a state or the other. And if you're in a state of love, there's no room for hate, because love is a powerful force. It unifies everything, and the universe is always in a cooperative state when love is at your heart. So the more you meditate and the more you let go, the more you dissolve the ego. You don't do things egotistically. You don't, so most people are so materialistic, and a lot of that is the ego. Like, I want to look better than you, I want to run faster than you, I want to be taller than you and stronger than you, have a better girl than you. A lot of that is egoism. Dissolve the ego. There is none of that. So there's no disunity. There's only conformity and connection. So meditation is one of the ways that we can use to harness and connect. And you see the most evolved societies on the planet all engaged in meditation, not prayer, not belief. The most evolved were always depicted as meditators, people that are harnessing and harmonizing their energy and connection. And the thing is like, I remember when Paul said, he said, where you sit is where God sits. Where God sits, because you now see that you are a God. When you see that you are a God, there's no limit to your potential. So when we talk about growth, there's no limit to growth, because you see that you're God anyway, because you've connected to the other side and seeing the true side of you, the empowering, godly, energized side of you that encompasses everything. There's no limitations. So when you come back to your physical body, having experienced God, which is you, there's no limit to what you can't achieve. So that's the beauty of meditation. You go within. It's like they say, when you connect to God, it's almost like they say, like there's a saying, it's like, can you put a cow through the eye of a needle? Almost seems impossible, but you go to the other side, you see it as possible. So that means it's impossibility. When people say the sky is the limit, that's the limit. The sky is the limit. You're defining where the limit ends. There is no limit. The sky isn't the limit, because that's a limit.
Right. Yeah.
So meditation allows you to be able to see beyond limitation. And once you can see beyond limitation, then your path is clear, because you don't feel there's anything you can't achieve. And that's the difference. You just see everything as limitless potential.
So let me ask about the difference between prayer and meditation then, because we use similar words, and we use the word connect in both cases. But am I right in thinking that with prayer, it's this sort of active, intention-driven
Mm.
process, right? I'm
Mm.
actively trying to engage in some sort of connection with whatever it is, higher power. Whereas meditation is it's a much more sort of passive opening to connection with, well, whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like you said, it's letting go. It's just
Mm,
totally letting go. In order for you to meditate, you have to be able to let go. And for most people that are struggling with monkey mind, if
mm,
you could pray every day and have monkey mind,
mm,
because it helps you to focus that monkey mind, but it
yeah,
still allows you to be a talker.
yeah.
I know people that are hypochondriacs that talk all the time. They can't meditate, but they can pray
Mm,
because prayer is yang, so it
mm,
facilitates the same need. But that's why they.
mm,
But in order for you to truly get to the state of meditation, in order for you to be able to let go, that's a healing stage because once you let go, that means you let go of everything.
mm-hmm,
You totally in a healing stage. But like I said, prayer and meditation, sorry, prayer and belief are like the rainbow bridge to do yang activities.
mm,
In order for you to be at a stage of meditation, you have to be able to let go, and to let go means you have to heal the ego.
mm,
And if everybody heals the ego, there's no more defense. You don't need to defend the disease, defend the doubt, defend the insecurity, because you're just at peace with everything.
yeah.
And I remember when Paul was saying, God can only look in, because if he looks out, where is he looking out to?
Mm,
What's outside of God? Nothing. So
mm,
why would you look inside? You can only look inside. So we're doing the same. We're replicating that idea by looking inside, because
mm,
if you look outside, all you're seeing is separation. My car, my house, the possession, possessive part of you. But the noun and the verb, you're looking at my house, my car as a separation. When you go inside, you just see it as an action of internal development. There is no separation, because you now connect to everything that is. And if everybody did that, there would be no wars, because who would you be fighting? You'd only be hurting yourself,
mm,
because you're hurting another part of you, because you are everything and you are connection. And like Paul says, when we talk about God and consciousness are interchangeable.
yeah.
The beauty of that is, if I said to you, car, your mind might immediately fixate on a car. It may be a different car to the one that I'm thinking in my head,
Mm-hmm,
but you see the image of a car. If I said a river, you might see a river. If I said a boat might come into your mind. But when I say consciousness, what comes to your mind?
mm,
Nothing. And that's when you truly start to get to the stage. Because if you see nothing, nothing is no thing, and
mm,
no thing is everything.
mm,
Because when you something,
mm-hmm,
something is this, and the word thing, something.
mm,
It's a particle in the universe. But when you have no thing, that means it's everything, because it's no singular.
mm-hmm,
It's a collective.
mm, mm.
That's what we're saying when we look at consciousness. It's everything. And if everything is you and me, why would we fight each other? Because we're just hurting each other. So meditation is the first step towards awareness.
Mm. I wonder, I think people can, well, people, this is oftentimes my reaction when I hear people talk about what meditation really is that I've never had an experience like that before. So I don't know what that's like. I don't know what that means. I don't know. So trying to think about how would I do that? How do I know when I am? Right. And maybe this is the monkey mind part, right? Or the sort of my brain sort of, but the description of what meditation is sounds so alien. I think, in a way, to what we do in our lives. Right? Prayer doesn't, right? Because we can talk about other kinds of connections and imagine, okay, well, I might be able to form that connection with a higher being. But the idea of sort of completely letting go and sort of dissolving the activity of your mind and opening up and connecting in that way, it just sounds like I don't even know what that is, right? I don't know what that's like, and so I mean, I wonder if that's when you talk to clients about that. Is that the sort of or it just sounds like such a strange thing, such an odd thing that getting to that place. I just don't it sounds like such an odd goal in a way, or
Yeah,
an unachievable goal because the experience is so foreign.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. That's how a lot of people perceive it. I remember
yeah,
Paul was talking to us recently about dissolving the ego and becoming so self-aware. He was talking about, he gave this example of you can either sweep the monastery floor for 7 years or just take DMT.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so some people get this experience of dissolving the ego without having mastered the principles behind forming that idea in the first place.
Yeah.
And so you have a lot of these people that are addicted to taking DMTs and ayahuasca, but they get forced into this stage of conscious awareness that they're not even ready for. So when they come back, they're lost. And that's why a lot of them feel so detached from society, and they can't formalize any future relationships because they haven't prepared themselves for it. So he was saying that if you were to sweep the monastery floors for 7 years, that would take a level of humility and growth inside before you actually got to the level of growth needed to participate in that experience. So meditation isn't a quick fix. Meditation is a long road, but that's why, like you said, somebody can just go and pray straight away, and you don't have to get the words right, but the intention's there, and it still creates a rainbow bridge towards an awareness of something greater.
Yeah.
And some can have belief to the point where they're an 8-year-old child and they can heal because they believe, because they understand in some sense that my intention can change my body because my spirit is more powerful than my body. But meditation, the massive difference is it's a quantum leap in that you have to learn to let go. And society today has found it harder and harder to let go of all these selfies that people are taking. And, like someone can be getting shot, across the road, and you're just taking a selfie, and people that witness the selfie think, oh my gosh, they're having such a great life. But you don't know, they could have had an argument 2 minutes ago.
Yeah.
You're in a snapshot and it could be fake. So people have learned to find ways to cloud their minds to be busy so they don't have to deal with self. But meditation is the idea of connecting to self and letting go of the falsities and accepting the truth and becoming greater because of it. So it is a beautiful experience, but it takes years.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I'm getting the difference between those three, between belief and prayer and meditation. And so I guess the question then is, so for our listeners, what's the takeaway? What would you want them to, now that we've kind of got this, what next?
I suppose the first thing is to kind of know that there's a polarity for prayer and belief, negative and positive, and that in order for you to transform, you have to go beyond this concept of praying. And prayers, in order for you to really grow, prayer isn't enough. And in order to truly heal, belief isn't enough. Because again, I suppose the takeaway is getting to understand that prayer and belief are actions. Meditation isn't. Meditation is the experience. Prayer and belief are the actions. So it's okay to start with prayer and belief to move you forward. But if you really want to heal and grow, you have to go to the experience. And the experience can only come through meditation.
Wow, QED right there. That's great. That's brilliant. Well, and I really appreciate that, because these are, especially prayer and meditation, I think people treat those in a way as though they are interchangeable. And so understanding the difference between those is really valuable. So thank you.
Yeah. I mean, when people say they're spiritual because they pray, I'm like, that's not what spirituality really is. If you want to be spirituality, like, you can quote spirituality, like you can quote the Bible, you can quote the Quran, you can quote religious books. It doesn't make you spiritual. It means you have a really good memory.
Yeah. There you go.
Really good memory. But you judge someone based on their actions, and that's what defines spirituality. So I always say to people, spirituality isn't what you do, it's what you are. Everybody can be calm when there's nothing to be upset about. Everyone can give great advice that they can't follow.
Yeah.
But to be honest and true and authentic and be real, it's what it takes to be someone who's spiritual, is to live their truth. Rather than, anyone can be calm when there's nothing to be upset about.
Yeah.
Can you be calm when there is something to be upset about? And when you get to that stage of deep connection and letting go, I mean, I'm not saying I'm at that point. I'm working on it as well. So it's a journey for me. Then when we can all do that, the world will be a far better place. And meditation is the key for that. It's basically what we're saying.
And that really clarifies things to me in a way, right? As you said, that you can have belief and you can pray, but in some ways those can be sort of inert, right? They don't motivate change. But when you're really meditating, you're opening yourself up to, sort of, we were just talking about in our last interview, the, sort of truth about yourself, right? In a way that you might have been denying. And that is a way that really drives change. That's a mechanism to really drive. And oddly, it drives change, but it's a very sort of passive activity.
Mm. Yeah, I remember when Paul was saying that they said that the Western systems, with the Western religions, there's so much problems and challenges in the Western belief systems,
Mm,
but they've found that there's not much in the Eastern systems, and that's
mm,
because the difference is the Eastern systems are steeped more in, the esoteric science,
mm,
and whereas the Western systems are more the exoteric science. So esoteric is the greater mysteries and
mm,
exoteric is the lesser mysteries, so
mm.
the more physical. Like, it's a lot easier to go about your day and every so often quickly have a quick prayer,
Yeah,
a few Hail Marys, as they say, and get on
yeah,
with your day.
yeah,
It takes a lot more discipline and focus to harmonize and be honest with yourself and see the truth and meditate and let go. That takes a lot more of a bigger journey. So in Sufism, in spiritual school, they talk about the Sirat al-Mustaqim,
mm,
translates straight and narrow path.
mm,
Straight and narrow path because not many people will take it. Not many people can have that level of discipline to achieve it.
yeah,
So, that's why we were saying before at the start, about 7 to 10% of the human race that grow will change the rest.
yeah, yeah. And so, if somebody wants to try to start to meditate, what do you suggest?
Don't, don't. No,
don't
no,
don't try.
no, I would say don't go first into that because that
Yeah.
would be like someone never having exercise and trying to do a marathon tomorrow.
Mm, mm-hmm,
It's too extreme. So start off with not necessarily prayer and belief,
mm,
but start off with something like breathing exercises because you get
mm,
to creating stillness.
yeah,
So start with breathing exercises or Paul Chek's zone exercises,
yeah,
and then move on to visualization exercises
yeah,
and toning exercises such as chanting, vibrational tones. And then once you're at those levels, we go through visualization, respiration or breathing, and then move on to meditation. Because once you can fixate your mind on things and you can focus, and once you can manage your breathing, then you can kind of focus on letting go of your vision and just focusing on dropping your heart rate to be in a more tranquil state through breathing. And then that allows you to be calm enough to be able to let go. But to let go is hard because, your mind starts to race. So that's why it takes a transitional period of practice for at least a year before you can really get to the stage of meditation and get the benefits. But the journey's worth it.
yeah. And I was going to say one other resource there. I think Paul has a YouTube video on active meditation that
Yeah.
probably they're very much like his zone exercises, so might be a good place to start there too.
Yeah, and also Paul's multimedia book, The Last Four Doctors You'll Ever Need,
Yeah,
he has 7 lessons for busy minds on
yeah,
meditative practices they can
yeah,
do as well.
yeah. That's great. Well, thanks so much, Warren. This is really, like I said, really heady stuff, but I think you brought it all together very clearly. So thanks so much.
With your help, of course. Thanks for
A little teeny tiny bit of help. Um, but this was great. Thanks. And I think we're going to do a special sort of event coming up soon with you and Jator. We'll have a little three-person conversation that I think is going to be exciting.
Yeah, we'll have a three-way.
Yes. I was avoiding saying that. I don't know whether that would sort of motivate people to watch or make them say, I don't think I want to see that.
Choice is a three-way. I'm watching this one.
Yes, right. But it's going to be exciting. I've been wanting to get the two of you together for a long time, so we can all have a conversation. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, that would be great. So that would be such a cool thing to have as well. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, Warren. Take care. Look forward to talking to you again very soon.
Peace and love, guys.